Billy Lane, Mondo, some old school classic guys. Used to do something very similar to Greasing Gears back in the day at rallies. But we're taking this out live on Facebook all the time, Facebook Live. This thing will bang out to about 1 million people over the next few hours. And really excited about the opportunity to be on the Progressive International Motorcycle Show stage. So thankful to J&P Cycles for sending us Pauly out here. And for being so supportive and to be a sponsor of Greasing Gears Garage all over the country where we go. Remember, J&P Cycles is the largest aftermarket distributor of motorcycle parts in the world. The world. I know, it's exciting. Stop. Keep your seat. I saw you. You almost wept. I had you right there. I know. It's okay. But one of the most exciting things that J&P actually does with Pauly is they put him in a little room with a motorcycle and a catalog. And this cat goes to town. He's owned his own motorcycle shop for years. He's built motorcycles. He had his manufacturer's license in Georgia, where we're both from. And so J&P really scored with him. And what he's got here to reveal, tell us kind of how this bike came into your hands. How did this end up at your J&P shop?
Well, basically, we were talking with the Buffalo Chip last year about doing something to give away. And I was wanting to mess with a Scout. They had a Scout that was available that had like 1,250 miles on it. So I got it. And everyone's kind of into the flat tracker stuff right now.
Yep.
You know, and I dig it. I love it. So I wanted to build something that you could take on the track, but it's 100% street legal. You know, turn signals, headlight, everything.
Which is when we were growing up, that's what you did.
Yeah,
I mean, you run what you brung. So, I mean, this is a run what you brung bike.
Exactly. That's exactly what this is. There's so much cool stuff on it. But at the same time, I didn't want to build something that you look at and you're like, dang, I wish I could do that. But so this whole bike, I had no tools. I did nothing but hand tools. I tell you that I used my cordless impact. That was like the only cool tool I had.
And that's just because you're lazy.
Yes, I busted my shoulders last year, so my shoulders get tired.
Don't make me look like that. You didn't have to bring that up. You just said, yes, I'm lazy.
Okay, yeah, I'm lazy. I am lazy.
No,
I'll give you that. I was lazy before I broke my shoulder.
So, but this was pretty much a hand tool built bike, and it's in the parts, off the shelf parts.
Everything is off the shelf. There's a couple of parts on the bike that we don't have in the catalog yet, but we will by the time the bike's given away. We're going to give this bike away after the Moto Stampede in Sturgis, so it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
You're going to watch the Indians out there kick ass on the track, and then you can get on one and ride it home.
And how are people going to be able to enter to win this motorcycle?
Well, if you go to jpcycles.com, we have a spot on our page where you can register to win.
Okay. So you go to jpcycles.com, everybody that's here live and everybody that's out there in face space world, you're going to go to their page, jpcycles.com. You're going to click on the link, and you're going to register to win this bike. And if you don't win it, though, you don't have to boo-hoo. You can just go right over to Indian and buy one of these, and you're going to be able to build something real similar. Well, Pauly, J&P Cycles has been such a great supporter of custom motorcycles. That's kind of where they got their start. That's why they started doing aftermarket parts.
I mean, the whole thing with J&P is, it started grassroots. It didn't start out as a giant company. It started out small and grew and grew. And, now we've been hosting this motorcycle build for IMS for years.
Yeah,
the
J&P Cycles Ultimate Builder Custom Bike Show is something that J&P has been behind for years, absolutely. And so you guys, this custom motorcycle is nothing new. It just continues to build on the legacy that you guys have established in the custom motorcycle scene. So.
Exactly. Well, do you guys want to see this bike?
You guys ready to see the bike we're talking about? All right, buddy. You going to undress her?
I'll grab the front if you'll grab the back.
I like this plan. We've done this before, Pauly. Here we go. All right.
All right, so
look at that. Give him a hand, man. Pauly designed this bike. He chose the parts. He chose the colors. This is a Pauly white build for J&P Cycles.
And the thing is, like I said, everything on this can be done in anyone's garage. The most complicated part of doing this build was actually the air cleaner, because you have to remove the backbone of the frame to put the air cleaner on, which kind of,
That's a little bit of a pain.
It is.
It's a design feature.
If you look at the new Cycle Source magazine next month, there's a how-to article on that, so you can see how to do the hardest part of the whole build.
There you go.
Other than that, it's all pretty simple. I used PM rims. They're bolt right in. Don't have to change spacers or anything. I did have them powder coated because I wanted this color, and that's the color I wanted. I got the Clockworks bars, Kuryakin mirrors with their mirror adapters so that I could use these mirrors on the metric style. Then I had Brothers Painting in Fort Worth do the painting for me, and a dude that we know named Tanner did the gold leaf and the pinstriping. I used the RSD exhaust, and of course I went with progressive rear suspension. These shocks are awesome. As soon as I took this bike for a shakedown, I beat the hell out of it for about 20 miles to make sure whoever gets this bike's going to have a good time.
Now, and tell us a little bit about these progressive piggyback shocks. They're adjustable on the fly now. It's not like it used to be. So,
well, yeah, I mean, you got to adjust your preload, and then you can adjust your rebound back here and everything. I've got it set up pretty soft.
Right.
I mean, I took this thing, I went flying across a field on it.
Right on.
So, I mean, it's pretty awesome. But this is your chance to have a street legal version of a badass race bike.
And whose controls are these?
These are Roland Sands controls.
Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Now,
if you know anything about the way the Indians are built, there is no frame down here, so you can't just have a spot for mid controls to mount up. So they actually had to engineer a way for it to hook into the cases. So
they're case-mounted controls and master cylinder. And I love the tail section we were talking about earlier. Tell me a little bit about it.
The tail section actually came from Dirty Bird Customs. That's one thing that's not in our catalog yet.
But it's coming.
It's coming. I have to say that is probably the easiest kit I've ever used. Because usually when you have something with the word kit, you better
get your grinder out and your drill.
There were 4 things. I had to open up 4 holes on the entire kit, and everything else was straight bolt-on. And the only difference on those holes was a bolt size changed from 16 to 17.
Wow.
So
John Shope, Dirty Bird Concepts, he does a great job. He used to be deep into Harleys, and he has really changed his whole line just for Indians, and he has a lot of great parts. Glad to see you guys are picking him up. What a great
Another thing that makes the bike street legal is turn signals. We talked about that. You know, back in our day.
You pulled them off first thing,
Yeah, I mean, I renewed my learner's permit 20 times because I never had a bike legal to take the test.
There you go.
But this has turn signals, and they're the Joker Machine LEDs. They're super small, but they're really bright. So, you know, they're safe and legal.
Right on. Well, do you want to take it down off the lift so they can see the other side? Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Send this thing over to the side.
So I want you to talk a little bit about this headlight setup. The other nice thing about putting these shocks on it makes it really nice getting it on and off the lift because it raised it up a little bit. It's Steve Eiselstein from J&P Cycles. Oh, my goodness. I love
If you've ever bought a part on the road at a rally,
you bought it from
J&P
Steve.
Cycles, you can thank that man sitting right there.
That's right.
If it wasn't for that guy, I probably wouldn't be up here.
So
he's the only person that could put up with me for 4 years on the road.
You can see these are the Joker Machine.
Yes, these are the
turn
Joker
signals.
Machine
They're
turn
just
signals.
that tiny LED lights, beautiful, little, slim, and they got the same ones in the rear, same treatment.
Yeah, the headlights, we don't sell that, and we're not going to pick that up. That's not something we're going to pick up. That's something that I found. I really liked it, and I went with it. But everything else, I mean, this is all stuff that you can do in your garage. So,
you can get these tires from J&P Cycles.
These tires, you can't yet. This
you can't get them?
The only set of these tires in the United States. We were talking
Where did you get them?
We were talking to the guys from Dunlop. We're going to carry them.
All right.
They don't have them here yet. They flew these in from Japan.
But they're coming.
Yep, they are coming. They flew these in from Japan, and I said, if you can get them to me by deadline, we'll use them. And I'm so glad they got them to me because, like I said, I beat the hell out of the bike. I took off across the field, and I rode it at 75 miles an hour on the highway.
Right on.
They're good tires. I'm very glad we went with them.
Well, you know, and this is just the reason J&P did this build with all their builds. He's got to get back and thrash on a 2018 Street Glide when he gets back that's in the J&P Cycles garage there.
Yep.
But the reason they're doing this is because people that want custom bikes, you don't have to go to a custom builder. You don't have to go spend tens of thousands of dollars. Now, I happen to have a shop in Iowa. If you would like to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a custom motorcycle, I have cards here in my pocket. I'll be by the side of the stage. My name is Pat Jansen from Sin Central Garage. No, but you can do that. Or if you just want to be able to do some stuff yourself and get used to your bike and get into it, if you're kind of handy with tools, just simple hand tools, nothing extravagant, you can do a bike like this in your garage out of the J&P Cycles catalog. And that's how J&P Cycles became the largest distributor of aftermarket motorcycle parts in the world, is by being able to make things this accessible for the most people in the riding community. So, well, Pauly, you did an absolutely beautiful job.
I appreciate it.
Where is this bike is going to be in a booth here. We'll say it one time. We'll say the word one time from the progressive
back
stage.
at the Geico booth.
It'll be in the Geico booth. But it's going to be over there. Just look for the bike. You've seen it. You'll recognize it over there. But, Pauly, thanks so much, man. And for everything that you do. If you guys ever need anything, they can find you on the jmpcycles.com page as well.
Well, I'm
with
on
your
the
tech
YouTube
art. You're on the YouTube.
Yeah. I'm on the blog page as well, but YouTube is the easiest way to find me.
So look for you on YouTube, and what do they search for YouTube?
It's the J&P Cycles YouTube channel.
There you go. So they've got their own channel, and Pauly gets in there, and J&P's serious about helping you with tech issues as well. It's Roy and Nikki. Hey, man, how you guys doing? We got world-class builders all over the place in this joint. But he does a lot of great tech stuff. He'll show you everything you absolutely need to know if you'll just go there. And if you've got any suggestions, you can go to his blog and say, hey, I'd really like to know how to do this. They'll work up a video. They've built an entire studio and are refurbishing it now, build a new one.
Refurbishing our studio now.
So that you can do that, even more of that kind of stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, Pauly White, beautiful bike, giveaway bike, jmpcycles.com. Thank you, Pauly, so much.
Thanks,
really
everyone.
appreciate it. Thanks for being with us.
All right.
And you can take that over to the booth.
Roll my baby out of here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Grease and Gears Garage, the concept behind this is that we're just a bunch of greasy mechanics. I always wanted to be smarter and better looking, and it didn't work out for me. A lot of people say it's genetics. I don't have a very good-looking family. A lot of people just say, you're just not the smart, good-looking one in your family. But what we wanted to be able to do is we wanted to be able to bring great builders to the public. Again, not a new concept, the way Billy Lane and Monty used to do it, but in your area, bring them to you. So this week, we're going to have Kiwi Mike from Kiwi Indian come up. We're going to have Chris Register from LA Speed Shop. We're going to have Alfonso Sanchez is going to be coming up doing some stuff for us. Who else do we have? We've got Tabor Nash from Nash Motorcycle, and we're going to be doing lots of stuff. We're going to be narrowing tanks. We're going to be building exhaust. But the one thing I'm really excited about is there's three of us that are going to be out here on the stage, and we've got Chris Callen and Mark, who's got a last name that I can never pronounce, so we'll just call him Mark Pistachio, because that's his. How do you say his last name?
Persichetti.
Persichetti?
Persichetti.
Persichetti. Go with pistachio, right, if you have to make a call. Persichetti. But anyway, we're going to be building over this show series, so if you're here, we want you to continue to go to our Facebook Live at Cycle Source Magazine, because when you do that, or motorcycleshows.com, because as we're doing this, we're going to be building a motorcycle from the ground up, a custom motorcycle, and every show will add to it. And Chris, tell us a little bit about the base platform that we're going to be starting with.
Okay.
As Mark and I go get that and bring it up.
Check. Am I up?
Oh, yeah, you're up.
Okay, so I want to thank everybody for having us out here and spending some time with us. Your time at the show is very valuable, but just like we figured the best was to start off with the build coming to its end with Pauly and his reveal.
Yep.
We want to start off at the beginning of a build. So what we're going to do today here in the beginning of this segment, kicking off Grease and Gears, is explain to you guys what it takes, what things are you need to think about, getting your sources together and getting a plan to build a custom motorcycle. This particular motorcycle is dear to my heart because I put 240,000 miles on the power plant that we're going to use for this bike. It built Cycle Source Magazine from a regional publication the whole way up through national. I went everywhere on that motorcycle, every event that I could cover, every picture that I took, even up to and including I raced it on the Hokahay race, which
right on.
Brings us to why we're going to call this
Black Pearl.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, man, that bike.
Motorcycle was absolutely.
How did it end up becoming a donor bike?
Well, in circumstances beyond his control, a good friend of mine totaled my motorcycle.
Nice.
He called me up one afternoon. I was out of town. He said, hey, man, can I borrow your touring bike? I'm going to rip out to Ohio real quick and come back. And the bike never came back. It was months and months later before he did. and the whole motorcycle was totaled. But it already had a 110-inch S&S motor in it. It had a 6-speed Baker transmission.
Right.
So I didn't want to let that go. We bought it back from the insurance company, which brings us to some great products today and how timely this is. What you see here before you is a frame that's available from Paco. It takes the entire touring chassis from a twin cam. They go the whole way back into Evos, and it puts it into a little FXR frame. So it gives you a chance to relive, take some of that stuff, or even on the cheap, because there's a lot of stuff out there now through eBay, through Craigslist, that you can pick up these cheap donor bikes, put it into a chassis like this, throw some imagination and parts to it, and you're coming down the road with a pretty cool bike.
Because with Grease and Gears Garage, part of what Chris and I and the crew have talked about is everybody, we all want to build cool stuff, and new parts are important. Trust me. That's why we love J&P Cycles. We love all the parts companies out here, the OEMs that provide us the new parts. There's some parts that you just simply can't find. But, you can reuse a lot of stuff. At Sin Central Garage, my garage in Iowa, we do, oh, he's cute. That's a big head.
Okay.
That is a huge head. But we, our thing is resurrecting hot rods, Harleys, and Hellions. We like to recycle, reuse, and repurpose. That's Blue Water. They're a good company. They do all of our audio stuff. We're just clicking right through it. Grease and Gears Garage.
I'm going to set this over here.
Yeah, you're not even qualified to run that clicker. You're dangerous with that.
The important thing, though, is like today everybody's talking about, where the motorcycle industry is going. And I think where it's going mostly is where it's always been. Two guys in a garage over a beer talking about the perfect motorcycle is where this thing's always been, and it's where it's always going to be cool.
Absolutely.
So we're kind of inviting you guys in over the next 7 shows into our garage, pull up a seat. We're going to go through this thing, throw some cool parts at it. Some of the stuff, obviously, we'll have to do while we're off site from here, but a lot of it will be happening live right on this stage. I think what we're going to do right now is in line with that, to show you some of the stuff that we've sourced already and sort of the direction this motorcycle is going. We started just like we would in our 2-car garage. We started looking on eBay and getting a plan together, because at the beginning of any build, that's really where you have to start. I tell people all the time, I built, a dozen or so motorcycles that are, each one classically looks like its own design. And they ask me, how do you do this? What's the trick for building that motorcycle and knowing how it's going to turn out? And the same thing I say to them every time is, you have to get a plan in your head. You have to get a picture. Whether you're good with art, whether you can use a computer, whether you can use 3D, or whether you have to clip out pictures from magazines, get a picture in your head of what you're building, and from that point on, you do not yield. If you make concessions because your buddy has this wheel and it's easier to use a 16 than an 18, or if you can get this part cheaper,
in one bike, and it just makes it looking like a hodgepodge of crap. And so you really go through magazines, go through Cycle Source, clip out all the pictures of the bikes that you really like, and then separate them into categories and say, okay, these are different style bikes, and then boil it down to that one bike. And I like the word you use, relentless. Be relentless with keeping your plan with what you're going to build.
So when we looked at this, we started thinking about the fact that FXRs are hot today. Everybody's doing FXR, but when you look at the market as a whole, there's so many people building the same FXR, and that's what I want to stay away from. I'm just a builder part-time in my garage, but for whatever it's worth, what my builds are, I don't want them to be the same as what everybody else builds. When I build a skinny bike, I build a different kind of skinny bike. When I build a board tracker, I make sure that it's different than the other bikes that are out there. So when it comes to an FXR, I want to start with this frame because it's popular and it's hot and there's a lot of action going on with this. It's absolutely got a performance drivetrain. It's going to be fantastic for that, but I want it to be a non-FXR.
Right.
So we start with some simple basic designs, and I think we have I don't know if I can work this thing, but we have some imagery of what our mock-up design looks like. And it's basically just a rolling chassis, a pair of wheels, and a frame.
And this is what Black Pearl used to look like.
Yeah, that's Bonneville like probably 10 years ago before it got all the really crazy miles on it. I bet you about 100,000 miles at that point. Let's see.
You're doing good?
I know. This thing, I'm great with this, right?
You're doing, I don't
know. So
here, let me see it while you talk.
the basic design of this is to keep the chassis nice and low, keep everything tight, use some really different choices on this than other people are using now. Stay away from the high bars, kind of club look, the high suspension in the back, which a lot of guys are doing that, and it's a hot look, and I dig it. It's just not what we're going to do with this motorcycle. So
here's the drivetrain right here.
Now, this is a really interesting thing. Because that was such a big motor that we built at S&S, and it performed so well, basically because of S&S's parts and combined with Zipper's Thundermax Auto Tuner, which Danny himself did the tuning on that bike, and it was insane. We actually asked Zippers to take that motor. We pulled the motor out, took it down to Zipper's facility. They are right now working on that bike, on the motor, and starting in the New York show of IMS, he's actually going to come on stage, and we're going to build that motor right on stage from the bottom up and show you guys too. But here's our roughed out design. What we did to start off with was got online, and right away I wanted to have a performance looking front end. I wanted something inverted. Immediately I go to some of the big ticket items, and I'm like, yeah, that's really not my segment or how we do things. So I went to eBay and started seeing what my other options were. I found a couple threads where guys were using GSXR front ends. You can get these really reasonable. If a bike's wrapped up, the front end's still good. I picked this whole front end up for $600. So $600 on eBay. I got the brakes, the front end, the top clamp, both handle grips, all the controls, everything with this front end. Now, in order to get this front end to work with the Harley neck and the bearings, you have to take a couple thousands off of the neck. When we leave here, we're going to stop at our machine shop back in Kentucky, and we're going to turn that thing down. By the time we're in New York, we'll be installing that front end for real. But Mark and Pat are going to slide this thing together so we can give you guys a look at what this motorcycle is actually going to come out like. And this is backwards.
Oh.
This is the same kind of thing that I do at home. Like when I start off with a build, when a part comes in, I don't immediately just attack that part and get that part on the frame. I wait until I have a bunch of my stuff together so that I can mock it up. I'll zip tie things on. I'll clamp things together. I'll put it on even though it's not right yet. This isn't ready for bearings and everything, but I want to get a look for what the lines of that bike are going to be. I want to see what it's coming out like. It's like a big block of cold clay, and you start working those edges away and start really taking a look, and this is an opportunity for where you start to be honest with yourself about what you're creating. It's just the wrong front end. That's the time where I need to take that and say, this is for another build. And that's where, like Pat said about being unyielding. So like I said, the brakes come.
Yeah, if you start realizing you're building an ugly motorcycle, stop. Please, God, stop. There's enough of them.
There's
I've got a couple of the house I built, and trust me, just stop.
We're here to prevent ugly motorcycles.
That's right.
So, yeah, and like I said, the nice thing about the Suzuki front end is the fact that everything was there. Now, from a custom standpoint, I'm going to want to take that front end all apart. I'm going to want to make sure the seals are good. The first thing I'm going to do is take that bottom tree and completely rework it, polish it, and make it something custom. I'm going to immediately take this top tree, and if we don't just machine our own top tree for this, we're at least going to machine this one down, get rid of some of the stuff that's here that we don't need. So,
well, because you're also going to end up you're going to put a fairing on this.
Yeah.
There's bracketry and stuff like that you're going to have to work in with that whole front end.
So moving on from this, a real good idea, if you're going to start a bike from a ground-up build, if you're going to start with a frame like this, a really good idea to have in your arsenal of tools at home, if you can, is a dummy motor. We have a dummy motor and the actual transmission that's going to go on this bike. What a dummy motor does for you, it gives you the opportunity to figure out your motor mounts if you don't already have them in place like we do here. It gives you an opportunity to figure out what your clearances are. You're putting that custom tank on. when you're going to put your tabs and your bracketry for mountain sheet metal, you want to know that it's going to go in the right place. You're not going to be hitting into your rocker boxes. You're not going to be hitting into anything.
You ready for the tank?
Well, let's get the dummy motor up.
Oh, dummy motor.
Dummy motor and transmission.
All right, I'm going. I've got it. It's right here.
So we went up to Paco for a couple days with this because, like I said, this is something neat that Paco's offering. And in their facility, they took us around for how they actually build these frames. It's pretty trick. They have a CNC machine that they program all these bends into, and they'll take, like, this whole bottom leg. They'll take this whole piece from here to here and have that raw material cut, feed it into a machine, and from there it flies right through the machine. It makes the bends on its own. It comes out as this whole leg piece. So for now, like I said, this is going to be a little bit of smoke and mirrors. We're just going to put the transmission into place.
Okay, that's fine.
You know, and this is to give you the idea, are things going to work the way that I'm seeing them in my head? Is my picture proven?
Clip that.
Am I going in the right direction? Do I have any clearance issues? And there's our dummy motor.
Every time you say dummy, I think my dad's here. Sounds just like him when he talks to me.
So from here now, obviously, we're not putting the motor mounts on. This is not our real motor. But from here, I'd like to get the real motor mounts on, actually get the rocker boxes on so that we can check the next piece, which will be the fuel tank. This fuel tank was this is a classic shape for a custom fuel tank. The one thing that's neat about this, though, is this is a performance-based newer motorcycle, so we are going to have fuel injection. So what we did here already ahead of time was taking this custom shape, and we worked in this panel to accept a Sportster fuel pump. That's what's going to power our fuel injection.
Now, Chris, I take fuel injection off everything and put carburetors on them. You like fuel injection. Why do you like fuel injection for this build?
You know, I ride everything from a 1949 panhead with old-ass carburetors, and I love it. I run shovels with my Super E and G carburetors, and I love them. This motorcycle, the twin cam motor that we built, 110 inches, with fuel injection, with the zipper auto tuner, I wouldn't own this motorcycle without that combination, because the way that it ran, if anyone here has ever, you guys have, anybody out there have a Zippers auto tuner in their motorcycle? So you know, the amount of tuning, but in every RPM range, it's something like 30 bands in every RPM range that those guys have the ability to tune the curve of that motorcycle. So every RPM range, it's constantly adjusting. It's true closed loop. So that means it continually learns what that motor needs, what the best combination is, again and again and again. It's not like, you know, a simple system where you just download a map and that's it. That's what you get. This thing, you download that base map, and it's constantly learning. It's constantly teaching itself to be better, to make more power, and to be more efficient. So for me, for this motorcycle to have a true performance engine, that's what I'm after with
There
this.
you go.
So now it's starting to take shape a little bit. Not everything that we're using for this is going to be swap meet special stuff or things that we've made at home. Obviously, we still have to do all of our tank bracketry, figure out where our fuel tank is actually going to sit, how it's going to sit in relation to the front end. But this is the point of putting this stuff together loose. You can start to see what kind of clearance you're going to need, where those stops are going to be. Start to think about how things are going to work together. We'll probably get this thing back into here like this. So in the next shows coming up, we're actually going to be mounting this stuff and showing you guys how it'll all start to fit together. But for now, let's bring the swing arm and the shocks. When it came to the shocks, I have a buddy that has a little shock company out in South Dakota, Jesse Jorns from Legend Suspension. And I've used Jesse's stuff, whether it was air ride stuff or through the years, man, we've tested through the magazine. We've done hundreds and hundreds of his products. Never have been disappointed in a single thing that's come out of that place. So rather than just grab anything for this, we do want that performance aspect and we want the performance look.
Okay.
We're going to go with something, you know, from Legends that gives us the adjustability and some real performance in the back end. So again, this is kind of in the mock-up stage.
For those of you, we got Mark up here. Give Mark a big hand. He's doing motorcycles now. He was in Lord of the Rings playing the part of Gimli. And we just are so glad that he's given up acting for motorcycle mechanicking.
Mark's also our rainbow chaser, just to be official about that.
Yeah, man.
So we're going to take some zip ties, and before everybody on Facebook, oh, by the way, we have Facebook back here, so if you have some questions about anything that I'm saying,
let me check this.
Go ahead and shoot them up to us, and we'll get them answered for you. But before everybody on Facebook says, oh, my God, you're building a motorcycle with zip ties, this is how we start all of our motorcycles, because I want to see. I'm a very show-me kind of person. I want to see how things look. I want to see how it's going to start to work.
We got Nick Bewley watching us. Nick won the J&P Cycles Ultimate Builder show last year nationally. Out of all the shows, then in Chicago, J&P Cycles Ultimate Builder show brings all the winners from all the shows there. And in the freestyle, Nick won with an absolutely amazing, beautiful bike, very innovative, and did a great job. A lot of stiff competition there. And so, Nick, thanks for being with us.
Okay.
Hopefully you'll learn something. We'll teach Nick something about building motorcycles. Just a young buck.
Okay, so this does kind of look funny with zip ties going everywhere, but my block of clay, I'm moving away the pieces, and I'm getting a look for how this is actually going to look when it goes together.
RJ Powell has come in. He's from Cutthroat Customs in West Virginia.
He's actually Cutting Edge Customs.
You know, RJ, it's Cutthroat. But he said this rear fender looks a lot like a front fender. So very good eye, RJ.
Yeah, this is actually like an old chopper trick that I learned for some guys back home, back east. But this is an FLH front fender. In later series, we'll show you we're going to cut those tabs off. We're actually going to take an oval tail light, the old tail light housing, and we're going to weld it into the fender back here. What's nice about this is the width of our frame already. Since we're sticking with a matched set of 18-inch tires, and we're only going up to about a 140 on both of them, they're going to be matched. We didn't have to go real wide on our frame. So normally what you do on a motorcycle, if you're going to use this trick for a fender, is you'd slice it in half, and we'd put about 2.5 or 3 inches down the center of this thing. This, the way it sits, it's perfect. So all we're going to do is knock those tabs off. We're going to come up with a mounting solution for it, and other than welding that tail light in and figuring out where we want to cut off the excess, that fender's done. It gives us a really nice horizon line that's coming right across that fender. It'll add to the speedy, kind of racy look of this bike, and I think it's going to end up being perfect.
So when you're looking at parts for a bike, when you're, check out, think about what you can use that's out of the ordinary, that's a little different, that will kind of add a special touch to your bike. That's what customization of motorcycles is about. So when you're going through the J&P Cycles catalog and you're looking for a rear fender or looking for a front fender or looking for a tank, look around, check things out and say, what can you do with that? And so that's where your creativity and your custom build is really going to come from. Chris, what are we looking at?
So, like I said, it's zip tied, but it's for the purpose of what is this looking like? I'm really digging the shape of the bike. I dig the fact that even though this is a touring driveline, we're managing to squeeze that space down. The frame is nice and beefy, so it sort of takes away the negative space that a much longer frame would.
Now, Chris, you've said it a couple of times, a touring driveline. Speak a little bit to what the difference between this drivetrain is and say something from another Harley-Davidson, from another.
Well, specifically this one here, the twin cam, is transmission attached to the motor, the oil tank that's underneath. So you have one giant unit. This is what you have to contend with. When we're dealing with choppers, man, if you're dealing with a pan head or a shovel head, you can really squeeze all that stuff together. We're even doing tricks now where we're bumping up the transmission and getting them off angle and stuff. But with this, you sort of have this much space that you have to deal with. What Paco has done here by making that FXR style chassis and giving you the ability to drop that back in, it's getting rid of a lot of that negative space so that you can still use this and end up with a nice.
Because you'll see a lot of these bikes out here in the Harley class in the J&P Cycles Ultimate Builder Custom Bike Show. You're going to see that some of them are going to be, based on a soft tail design, or but the touring bikes, the Dynas, have this one piece. The transmission bolts to the engine. In soft tails, which you're going to see, and a lot of bobbers and stuff use that, it's got a divorced transmission and engine. So the transmission is going to sit back behind it and is going to be separate. And so I did say divorced, and I'm used to it. It's very expensive, cheap at twice the price.
So while we're putting some of this stuff together and showing you guys how this bike is going to end up we got 6 more shows after this to make this a motorcycle. While we're showing you this, let me tell you a little bit about the rest of this weekend in case I get a chance to have you all back. So starting after us tonight at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
6 o'clock on this spot, we have Tabor Nash coming up, and Tabor's going to take that bending machine right there, and he's going to custom make handlebars from raw material. So he'll make a couple sets. He usually throws them out to the crowd as he goes, but it's kind of a neat segment. He shows you what goes into it, what's involved in making your own custom bars. Throughout the weekend, we have some really, really cool stuff from this side of the country. Sam from Ride Right Wheels is going to come up on this stage, and he's going to show you how to lace and true a wheel. Right.
You've ever seen those big fat spoke wheels? That's Sam right there. He's the one that came out with that.
He's going to show you that stuff. Chris Richardson from LA Speed Shop is going to come up and narrow a fuel tank. So he's basically going to take a tank like this, slice it right down the middle. He's going to take some of the material out and squeeze it down, make a cool little custom tank, and that's going to happen start to finish right here.
Chris is a guy that if you've ever seen a Sailor Jerry rum vehicle at all, whether it be a car or a bike, Chris builds those for them.
His style is just off the hook.
And it's like nobody else's. Yeah. He is a unique fella.
He did one of my favorite things ever, and that brings us into another segue about Paco, and I'm not ashamed to say this, but Chris took for Artistry and Iron one year, he took a stock Harley-Davidson Springer and cut that whole thing apart and squeezed it down and made a narrow glide stock-looking Springer. It was one of the coolest things I ever saw. And from what I understand, Paco's picking that up now. So
that's sweet.
Yeah. In addition to that, we have Michael Berrigan coming up here from Evil Spirit, and Michael's going to swap out an old transmission on a 68, I believe. He's going to swap out the old transmission for a Baker 6-into-4. There's a couple things he's going to have to change as far as like linkages, shifter, exhaust. He's going to do that stuff right here live too. Kiwi Mike from Indian Motorcycles is going to rebuild a flathead top end right here, right in front of everybody. He's going to tell you
old Indian flathead top end. He's going to be up here, and he talks funny, but you'll be able to understand, and we'll translate for him. He's from New Zealand. Mate.
Dude, he's one of the best that there is. It's a real privilege to have Mike up here with us. So it's really cool, man. I mean, we're getting you guys used to what we're doing. Like I said, this is like us inviting you into our garage. This is kind of what it's like in our garage.
This is what it is. Chris and I stand around and talk, and Mark works.
So let me see.
And Heather. Heather helps.
This is a product of another one of our presenters. He's going to come up here Sunday. Adolfo.
I called him Alfonso.
Dude, you didn't call him the wrong name. You murdered his name.
Murdered it, but you spelled it wrong.
So Adolfo is making these great fairings out of LA Fairing Company right in Riverside, California, and he makes them for Sportsters, Dynas, FXRs. He makes this style, and he makes a little small one called the Cholo. But when we were talking about this project and asking him to come up on stage here, I was looking at his products, and I was like, man, for what we're doing here, this is going to be the perfect addition. This is going to be the way to finish this motorcycle off and like really have that not a typical FXR look in the end.
Absolutely.
So somewhere in the neighborhood of here.
Now, is there a way to? Did you guys come up with a way to?
I think we did. Mark has something.
Mark's figured it out. He wants that to stay there without a hand touching it. I'm going to let you guys handle that. Interestingly, we run in kind of the same circles. It's interesting that Chris has decided with the grease and gears on the stage to build this particular bike. because I've got a 97 Road King at the house that I kind of have set up so it looks like an old knucklehead. I had it on the hot bike tour, and kind of, I get tired of the same old thing. And so I actually am ripping it apart now, have an ST1100 front end, an old one that I got. I'm going to put it on there, and I'm going to be using the original chassis. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see the difference between using a stock chassis and using this one. I think it'll be good when we ride them together. We'll be able to see. And I do think that this chassis might end up being obviously the superior choice. But,
well, and that's the thing, like for me, because of the magazine, we try to reach out to our partners. We use different products. We have the ability pretty much with the tools that we have up here that we could just make a chassis. We've done that in Sturgis. Will Ramsey came up and built a whole
motorcycle frame for us.
But this is an opportunity to show what's out there in the market. When we started talking about this, it was what's available today. How are guys doing stuff? Those two guys in a garage over a beer, they're not just going to start with building a whole chassis. This is how the ideas get going. I have a wrecked bike. What can we get for it?
Right on. Yeah, and my bike's not wrecked, so my frame's perfectly fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my frame.
And that's, boy, I'll tell you what, I'm so glad my buddy that was on that bike fared as well as he did, because the bike was totaled. We pried the stuff away from it to get out the good parts.
It's weird to see Chris show up to events all over the country now, because he was always on that bike. It was like, you don't even look right anymore, man. Now you're always riding those little skinny bikes that you're building.
I know.
Out of Flatbrook.
If you guys get a chance, I do have one bike here that we actually build, all the Grease and Gears guys. There's a little yellow chopper out there that says a little twisted, and that's one of our project bikes too. That one was pretty cool because we actually took and made our own jig and hand twisted the steel for the rims. And
if you see it, it's a yellow bike. It's a chopper, an old school chopper, and it's got what are called invader wheels on it. They're 5-spoke wheels, and they're twisted. And Lead Sled, a good friend of ours, Pat Patterson, who actually built a bike for this show for Progressive Insurance. He had a bike here. There's some magazines on the table, actually, that have that bike on the front of it. But Pat Patterson does those twisted spoke wheels for you. And then they twisted the frame to match. So a little twisted is a really beautiful bike that Grease and Gears put out.
So roughly, this is the direction we're going in. What do you guys think?
It's good?
Different. There's a few problems that I'm already looking at. One of them is going to be the biggest challenge here is the fact that between our brake rotors, we only have a little less than 2 inches.
It's going to be hard to get a 3.5-inch tire in there.
And this is one of my requirements. Like I said in the beginning, I don't want to build everybody's FXR. So I don't want mag wheels on this. And I know that'd be the easiest way for me to do this, and it's what everybody's doing. And besides that, I still want to run the big, fat, 50-spoke Fat Daddies on this. So that's going to require that we make our own hub. So we're going to have to get into the shop or beg Sam from Ride Right.
I would beg Sam. Let's beg Sam.
So other than that, though, if you look at the bike, I don't really dig the grips. We'll get rid of them. The controls are easy to keep. That's nice electrical that's already been done for us. We'll keep that. These handlebar levers, we're going to replace both sides of these with guard Hollingers, ISR stuff. We're going to convert this over to a hydraulic clutch.
Is that from Brass Balls?
No.
Who are you using?
Guard Hollinger.
Oh.
LA Chop Rods.
Gotcha.
Matching 18-inch wheels front and back. We will be running a BDL belt drive on this side, so rather than going back to the, traditional wet sump primary, we're going to
be an open belt hanging off of this side.
Nice open belt. And I think, what do you guys think? Mid controls probably, right?
You think mid controls instead of forwards on a bike like this?
Forwards. It's going to be fast. We'll do mids. But in upcoming shows, we're going to get a lot of this stuff done so that it's ready, that we can actually assemble some of this. And we'll go through building a seat pan. We're going to show you guys how to build a seat pan. We got some cool gauges that are going to go up here. We're going to show you how to use some stuff from Autometer so you get a tack and a speedo. We're going to make that fit onto this top clamp. And by the end of IMS this year, we're going to have a complete motorcycle.
We're going to take it out and we'll do a burnout, and we need to buy 3 tires so we can blow that first one up.
And then it's going to be off to Bonneville.
Off to Bonneville, baby.
So
that'll be all right. Well, That's our start to our build. This is going to be. What are we calling this build?
This is the War Pony.
The War Pony. So.
Specifically because when I raced in the first ever Hokahay, and it was, aside from the racing, about 2 days into it, I could have cared less about it.
And explain what the Hokahay is.
Hokahay was the craziest thing that there ever was. It was a motorcycle race between guys that went from Key West, Florida, back and forth across the country the whole way to Homer City, Alaska. And the first one there got $500,000. But everybody that took that ride, you only knew where you were going 1,000 miles at a time. When you got to the next check-in, you got another map. You got a list of directions, told you where to go. So it was pretty badass. By the time I got to Alaska, completely broke me down. Like I was just...
You were ready to be done?
Dude, the first time that it was 200 miles to the next town where I might or might not get gas, and I went to pull over to sleep for a little while, and there was a bear right there. And it wasn't like a bear like you see around civilization. It's like, oh, my God, there's a person. He was like, he stuck his head out like, what are you doing
He
out
looked
here?
And said, oh, my God, there's a person.
So that I immediately became aware that I was nowhere near the top of the food chain. But for that race, I painted up the Black Pearl with the same traditional paint job that Crazy Horse's War Pony had. So in relation to that, we're going to call this motorcycle War Pony. There will be some of that same badging on this once we get to paint and graphics, but that's what that's all about. Pretty important motorcycle for the magazine, so we want to keep it around for a long time.
Are there any questions about the build, where it's going, anything? See if we've got any on Facebook real quick.
Yeah, this is a nice clamp assembly that Paco offers, and like I said, it takes those 2 5/8 autometer stuff, so you can take right out of the autometer catalog. Nice set of gauges right there. It'll give us a tack and a speedo side by side and tuck in real nice behind this fairing for us. Still have to figure out a headlight mount, get those mid controls on, and get some real parts for the swing arm.
And on Facebook Live, we just got a bunch of folks. Jeff O'Neill just shouted out he loves the front end. I think that might be Jeff O'Neill, who's from Mississippi now. Jeff, I don't know, hit us up. Let me know.
Right on.
I think I know him from back in the day when I was in Atlanta doing some stuff. So, yeah, but folks are digging it, Chris.
Right
Online, folks are they're loving what they're seeing.
So keep checking back in. I mean, we'll be here all weekend working with all the guys that are coming up here to build this stuff. If you have any questions, stop me if I'm out on the floor. And if you can't make it back, check us out at all the rest of the IMS shows on Facebook Live and see how this thing is coming along. We'll keep you guys up to date.
Nothing like pressure building it live on Facebook. So there you go. So if we miss the mark, it'll just be really embarrassing. So, folks, thanks for being with us here at Grease and Gears Garage. Facebook folks, thanks for hanging in with us. We're going to be back in a little bit again with Tabor Nash. So check back with us at 6 o'clock. So we'll be back with Grease and Gears Garage. Thank you.